good afternoon, and welcome to Have a Chat, aired live at Rogers Studio right here in Miramichi, New Brunswick. It's a beautiful day, and I am your host, Judy for this wonderful show we're about to bring to you. We always start off with a quote, whether it's an inspirational one or just something to give the viewers something to think about. And pertaining to our show today, I chose this one by Glenn Close. What mental health needs is more sunlight, more candor, more unashamed conversation. And I always have loved Glenn Close as the actress, but she's also an advocate and activist for mental health, being that her sister has dealt with mental illness for many, many years and has gone through 5 failed marriages. She has 3 children, she's had multiple affairs, and in 2004, her sister, at the age of 51, came within seconds of taking her own life. So her sister has been diagnosed with bipolar. She has one uncle with schizophrenia, and another has committed suicide. So that's why Glenn Close is so involved with this whole topic. And on that note, I have a very special guest that I was able to book to come out with all of the facts about mental health that he's had to deal with. And he's a very wonderfully spoken, gifted man, Mr. Dannie Godin. Welcome, Dannie.
Hi, thank you so much.
Yes, and I'm so happy that we can get people like you to just come to our table, talk about it from the heart and from the beginning as to what you have gone through to date. Maybe starting with telling us a bit about who you are.
Yeah, well, I'm 41. I'm New Brunswick from here. I lived here on the base back in the old days.
Yeah.
Moved away when I was 10, and I lived in Fredericton for just about 20 years or so. Mm-hmm. And I moved back here last year.
Yes.
And why I'm here today is, well, to get right into it, I am a 3-time suicide attempt survivor. I do have a mental illness. I have bipolar disorder type 2,
okay,
which is the more, I guess you could say, milder version. There's bipolar type 1 and bipolar type 2. Type 2 is the highs are not as high when you're manic, and the lows are not as low when you're depressive.
Okay. So bipolar, in other words, is manic, is depression. Manic?
So it used to be called manic depressive.
Manic depressive disorder.
It used to be called that, yeah.
Okay. Tell us about some of your experiences. I have friends that have had like moments of mania, and then they have gone to that low. So what do you do, Dannie, when you're hitting that mania point in life, that cycle?
For me, it's you take on too many tasks, you spend too much money. Thankfully, I never got into the addiction side of things. That never got a hold of me, thankfully.
Good.
It was mostly just taking on too many tasks, scatterbrain, that kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. That was my mania.
All right. Now, may I ask if there was any addiction along with the illness that you've experienced? Any form of a substance abuse along the way?
Thankfully, no. I do have general anxiety disorder, so sometimes maybe you would maybe have a little bit too much alcohol, maybe as a social lubrication, I guess you could say.
Yeah, yeah.
But nothing in terms of alcoholic addiction, anything like that, no.
Okay.
Thankfully.
So, Dannie, you were just a teenager when you started feeling that things were just not right. Were you a young boy or a teen?
Well, I was diagnosed only last year, but looking back, my therapist and myself, definitely it was, we can look back, hindsight's 2020, right?
Yes.
It was definitely probably around 15, 16, adolescence is when it started to cycle between the mania and the depression.
So we're talking about people that experience mental illness. It can be chemical imbalances, it can be environmental stresses, it could be genetic. Are there other people within your family circle that have experienced what you have?
There's no one in my family that I know of, certainly close family, that has bipolar disorder, anything like that. No, so yeah, it's interesting.
Do you know what? I'm going to let you tell your story, which is actually incredible as far as your survivor goes. But just for the viewers, so that you know, approximately 5,800 suicides take place in Canada annually. And the average number of suicides per year in New Brunswick is 101. So experts conclude that the average number of those who have attempted is 100 times that amount, which is 10,000 suicide attempts. That's pretty shocking.
Yep.
Now, you are a 3-time suicide survivor.
Yes.
And that's a story I've never heard of before from anybody, because that's quite incredible. So what happened the first time, Danny?
The first time I was in a depressive cycle, it was a combination of sleeping pills and alcohol. And I just vomited, woke up. I didn't even get help. I just simply went to work.
Okay.
Obviously a mistake. And then my second time was a failed hanging. I had used ties, and they snapped.
Oh.
And what happened then was, it was actually, I'm not sure who called the police, but the police were called. And I had two very different experiences between my second and my third time, and this is an important part of it. The second time, which was the failed hanging, the police broke down the door. I was in handcuffs. I was brought up to the ward. I was dropped off like cattle to a slaughterhouse, basically.
Oh.
And I was what's called formed, which is a 3-day psychiatric hold,
Right.
3-day hold. Going through that, the experience of the initial hold, the initial being in handcuffs, being treated like a criminal. After the 3 days, I bolted. Oh my God, why am I being treated like this?
Where
I
did you go?
bolted.
Back to your home?
Yep. Went back to the apartment where I tried to hang myself.
Again.
Yeah.
So can I interject just to ask, like, if I was your friend, and I know you have friends and close people that love you, because I have friends that have suffered many forms of depression, whether it be bipolar, schizophrenia, it's so prevalent, and anxiety is the most common. But did you not think to call someone when you're reaching that low? Like, say you and I were friends, would you not know that I would be there for you as your dearest friend that loves you and would never want to see something like that happen to you, an attempt such as that? Like, Judy, I'm having a terrible moment, come talk to me, or what?
We don't want to be a burden.
But can I just say to you and those people that you deal with that go through what you're going through, that we don't consider people that are hurting and in pain and getting that low a burden? That you feel that? We want to help. We want to reach out and say, you're a worthwhile person. You're a human being that we want on this face of this earth.
And I love that, and that's great. Let's use an example of, let's say, perception.
Okay.
Let's use an example that I think we've all had. Perception expands and grows daily for everyone. Let's use an example that we've all had, probably maybe even today. You get cut off in traffic.
Yep.
Tunnel vision, your perception goes like this. You don't see the Tim Hortons on the side of the road. You don't see the pedestrian. At most, you just see the color of the car, maybe a license plate. That's it. Then your perception goes, it goes and expands back. You go back to work. Things become normal. And by the time you go home to your spouse, you might not even talk about that near miss.
No.
Because your perception has just normally gone back to normal.
Okay.
With a mental illness, with depression, let's say, your perception is just like this.
Yes.
So with people saying, we love you, ping, we're here for you, we're not going to be a burden, ping,
Okay.
the perception just won't expand.
I see.
So-
Well, you're making it more clear to understand where
So
you're
that's
coming
why,
from.
when people say, we love you, we care, it's just not getting through.
I see. Now, you did have marriages along the way. Did you have one or two?
One.
One marriage.
Yeah.
And was that a factor when things went wrong in your relationship that kind of led you to that feeling of desperation?
Yeah, leading into my third and hopefully last attempt.
Last.
Yeah. It was a job loss that was a career.
Okay.
I thought it was a career. Job loss, the loss of my father, and the end of my marriage. That was my third attempt, which was another failed hanging.
Three huge factors, though, that came crashing on you within the proximity of what? Within a month or a year?
Within a year.
Within a year,
Yeah.
all of it fell apart.
Yeah, and so that's where I went back to the differences between the second and the third attempts. When the police found me, they just calmly got me. They calmly got me to the car.
Good.
The radios were turned down. They turned down their cell phones. They brought me to the ward. They stayed with me during the inpatient processing. And that started my process of my last stay.
Yes.
Now, which of those two processes do you think worked out for the best.
Well, I mean, you're treated like a human being. When they calmly realize that there's a man in a situation and he needs help, you're not an aggressive person. And you were fighting that fight, and you were very, very low. And as a police officer that's trained in handling those situations, I would expect that is what they should have done. And the second time was a terrible experience. You felt like a wild animal, caged.
Criminal. We're
A
treated
criminal.
Like,
And inside for the first time, what was that like, Danny? Like you've never been, okay, before all of that, your first entrance into the psychiatric ward, what were you feeling with the people around you? And did you feel comfort in knowing that they were walking your walk?
The first time, no, just because I was in the handcuffs, it was just such a bad experience. The second time, because I was brought in more of a
Respectable fashion.
welcoming stage, I guess you could say, it was so much better.
Okay.
And just the finally the acceptance of stop fighting it. This is who I am.
Yeah.
This is Danny version 2.0.
That's right. You are who you are.
And this is who I am.
Yeah.
And it was so much better. And life inside the ward was.
Yeah. What was that like?
Quiet, funny, loud, scary,
Yes.
all things at once. But ultimately, when you're around people that are kind of in the same boat as you, it's just so much better.
Well, they can empathize, right?
Yeah.
There might be someone that just went through exactly or similar situation to what you did just that day. And you can talk about it, and you know where they're coming from, and they know exactly where you're coming from.
It's peer support, which is a huge part of
Peer support is huge.
Yeah.
And having moved here, you've been in the Miramichi how long?
Just about a little over a year.
So, I mean, you're basically a newcomer to the
Yeah.
city.
Yeah.
Have you found that difficult to reach out for those peers that you say are so all-encompassing when you need them?
It's been a little difficult, but it's slowly meeting people, yeah.
Slowly meeting people.
Yeah.
I'm just going to flip to a few more. We're going to go to break, and we're going to come back to your amazing story. But the economic cost to Canada is at least $50 billion a year for mental health.
Yeah.
And would you say that's still not enough? I think there's always required funding for those, don't you say?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Mental health is health.
Mental health is of utmost
It's
importance.
just health, yeah.
Unfortunately, Danny, by 2020, depression will be the leading cause of disease in Canada.
Yeah.
That's next year.
Yep.
Wow, that's incredible,
yeah.
number one. And by the time Canadians reach 40 years of age, 1 in 2 have or have had a mental illness
Yeah.
by age 40. And you're 40 now?
41.
41.
Yes.
Okay. How are you feeling today about yourself in general? Like as you walk in here and see me and know that you're telling other people that can maybe say, okay, I know where he's coming from and I walked that walk, but didn't get the help they needed maybe.
I certainly am battling anxiety right now,
Are
but
you?
I know that this is when I had like various other interviews and things like that, and sharing my story on Twitter and things like that. I know that ultimately just so many good things come from being open. So
Very much so.
I know that tonight it'll be good.
Do you have people come to you already that you've met, and have you spoken to many people about this journey, or has it just been more of a quiet interview with the newspaper in the past and now on TV today?
Mostly quiet and a lot of online reaching out and blogs and things like that. Yeah.
I hate to be so direct, but I really, when I know of people that have passed away because they get so desperate and they want to take their life by hanging, to me, Danny, like you said, everything just kind of goes black, because there's a stage, there's a plan to do that. You have to have your accessories and you have to plan it out.
Yep.
And I think it's almost bravery, as someone else might say it's desperate or cowardice. I think it's the most ultimate act of bravery there is to take that step and do that. What can you tell me about that? When your mind goes to that, I'm going to end my life and I'm going to take that rope and do it. What are you thinking when you're in your living room and saying this is it?
You just don't want there to be pain.
Okay. And it's quick?
Yeah.
And but what did you feel after it didn't happen, when it was a failed hanging? What was who came? Did your family come find you?
No, it was the police. I honestly don't know who called.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you're here.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much time we have before break, but I do want to give a big shout out to the all-important CHIMO hotline, crisis hotline.
Yes.
I
Yeah,
know
they've
that
been
you
there.
have a lot of faith in them.
Yeah, they've been there for me. I've called dozens of times, and yeah, they're always there 24 hours. Yeah.
So tell us about CHIMO. They do not just dealing with suicide attempts, but anything, gambling, or well, like if I phoned in a crisis, what are they going to be able to help me with? What different areas are they going to be able to help me settle?
Basically everything. They're there to listen, non-judgmental. Basically everything. Anything you can need, they'll
Help
listen.
with.
Yeah.
Okay, so CHIMO is a 1-800 number that is available 365 days of the year, 24 hours a day.
Yep. Absolutely.
And I do have a number somewhere here that I will give at the end, but we just have a couple of minutes, and I do want to say that these are some of the illnesses that are under the umbrella of mental health. Mood disorders such as depression or bipolar disorder, which you have disclosed that you deal with, anxiety disorders, personality disorders, psychotic disorders such as eating disorders and schizophrenia, PTSD, which we hear a lot about every day on TV especially, it's out there every night in the news, trauma-related disorders coming under PTSD, and substance abuse disorders. That covers a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Do you know many people with one or more of these disorders?
Yeah, during my last stay on the ward, I was there for almost 3 months.
Okay.
When I finally committed to I needed to be there.
Yes. You knew it was needed.
Yeah. I met everyone with everything, pretty much everything on that list. Yeah, everything. Yeah.
And so when we talk about, would you have thought that eating disorder was something that people would be calling the CHIMO hotline about?
When I first came in, no, but
No.
now, absolutely, yeah.
Because it truly is. You see someone that's maybe 250 pounds that thinks I don't know, they see themselves in a mirror in a different way, or someone that is 250 pounds that wants to be 100. And you know what I'm saying? It's a whole mind thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, absolutely, yeah.
I bet you know that CHIMO number right off, don't you, Danny?
It's
No,
only,
I'm serious.
It's only speed dial.
It's on your speed dial. But I want to be able to give people that number because you know what? As we talk, thanks to you coming on here, we're able to tell people that it's in Fredericton, this crisis hotline.
The office is based in Fredericton, yeah.
And
but
when we come back from
yeah.
break, we're going to give that number out to people because I know someone out there will need it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So. Hello, we are back again at Rogers Studio here in Miramichi. You're watching Have a Chat, and we've been talking to my wonderful guest here, Dannie Godin, who is discussing mental health and how bad things can become that you contemplate suicide, and he has attempted suicide 3 times, but thankfully he is here today to tell us that there is help out there when you reach that low. And I was going to say the number for the CHIMO hotline is 1-800-667-5005. Again, 1-800-667-5005. Available always, 365 days of the year if you're in a crisis situation, and they are there to talk to you. And it's open to all of New Brunswick residents. And pick up that phone if you're ever feeling that need or hurt or desire or pain. They are there. Danny, what kind of help and what type of experts are we talking about here when you pick up that phone and say, "This is Danny," and take me to that situation where you're on the call?
They're expert crisis counselors. There's a lot of courses you can take. Recently, I actually just enrolled in something called the ASSIST course rather. It's Applied Suicide Intervention Skills Training. Mm-hmm. It's a 2-day course. It's kind of quick, but they offer it. It's a company called LivinWorks. They offer it. Yeah, LivinWorks, I think .net.
Yeah.
Google it anyway. Recently, it was done in Fredericton at St. Thomas on their campus, and I think in July they have it in Moncton somewhere.
Okay.
But anyway, it's a 2-day course, and it helps in that moment of intervention, the crisis, what to say, how to process it, and things like that.
They're very well trained in they have to be in giving guidance and the proper feedback for your people.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so there have been, how many times did you say you have phoned CHIMO since your onset of mental illness?
At least a dozen.
A dozen?
Yeah.
And you just feel good because it's that reachable help right there. It's like a telephone call. You know that person's waiting to help you.
They need, somebody needs to be there at the end. That's why it's so important to help them out with funding, which is why, like, a part of my discharge plan was jogging and exercise.
Good.
And I recently ran the Fredericton Half Marathon.
Oh, yes.
And, yeah.
They had their 41st marathon in Fredericton, I do believe, their annual one.
Yeah, it was really great. And part of my discharge plan was, jogging, exercise, and I thought about how many times Chimo has helped me. Mm-hmm. And I thought, okay, maybe I can pair this.
Ah.
And I did it as a fundraiser for the Chimo Helpline. And so, yeah, it was really
Paying
great.
Paying it forward.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
hopefully I can help that.
Even though you didn't come out like you weren't the main winner, were you?
God, no.
But you did win the race another way. You have to look at it like that.
We all run our own race, and
yes.
so that metaphor is
that is so
the metaphor
applicable.
of battling mental illness, and the metaphor of if you're not finishing first, it doesn't really.
It doesn't matter because the funds you raised went back into Chimo.
Yeah,
to support them.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, so that was.
So
it's extra special.
I guess my question is, you say that you feel like a burden to your family, but you're ready to phone Chimo. But would you not go to one of your brothers? I know that you don't want to go to your friends because maybe it's too personal, but is your family close?
We are, yeah, some, yeah.
But you still wouldn't want to go to your brother and say, I'm really hurting right now and I'm thinking terrible thoughts about doing something to myself.
Now, yes.
You would go to him now?
Yes.
Would you come to me?
Sure.
Yes, you would. I would hope you would. I met this man that was struggling, such as you were, a few years back, and he was an acquaintance. I wouldn't say a good friend, but a man that lived in my neighborhood and then moved away to another area of the city. And one day he was waiting at the bus stop in Chatham, and I knew he was having a really, really bad day. I was very intuitive to his feelings, and it was an amazing outcome from that story because we talked, and I said, "You're not feeling well, are you?" He said, "No." He said, "I could hardly get out of bed this morning, and I thought, Judy, I'm going to end it." And I said, "Well, you're not." And I said, "I'm always here for you if nobody else is." And I gave him my phone number, and he didn't call. But when I met him the next day, he said, that phone number was like my lifeline. He said, "I knew you meant it when you said you would help me. And even though we're not close, it was good to know someone was there that I could reach out to say, you're special, I want you around, don't do this."
Yeah, exactly.
What are the best words you can hear as someone that's going through their lowest moments and then they're hauled out of that darkness? What is the best feeling or the best thing that someone can do?
Just being there. Just
sitting there?
Yeah.
Holding your hand?
Yeah. Honestly, just being there. There's almost nothing you can really say, but it's just being there.
A feeling of security.
Yeah.
I have friends that suffer anxiety, and you think sometimes you're going to be the clown, and you can tell jokes, and you can be perky, and that's going to make them feel upbeat, but that's not how it goes.
No.
It's a chemical thing with them that is not going to be altered by your exuberance.
Yeah.
And that's what makes me sad, because I do want to be that person that makes a difference.
Yeah, you try to be that it fixes everything, and sometimes you just can't.
You cannot.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about medication. Do you think that's a very crucial part of well-being when people are suffering from any form of mental illness?
It depends on the severity. Like, the people will talk about mental illness. It's just this huge, wide brush that everyone paints it with.
I know.
So, some people, medication, great. Some people, talk therapy. Some people, go for a walk in the woods. Great. What works for you is what works for you. And, there's some people that really do love to med shame, and there's people that really love to just, do all these things.
Mm-hmm.
And, if it works, if your treatment plan works for you,
yes.
Leave, great.
Yes.
Stop judging other people's treatment plans.
If your doctor and your therapist feel that's working and it's doing you well, and I would think that, for example, schizophrenia would be one that would require ongoing medications. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I have some people on the ward I've met, and
they have to stay on those medications, or their whole personality changes again, and they go spiraling.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're out. You jog now and you work.
Yeah, things are pretty okay
They're
now.
pretty good.
Yeah.
What are some of the other things that help people with mental illness? Like, do you think sleep is a very, very important thing? I think if I don't sleep, you're just off, period. But if you're dealing with an anxiety or a form of mental illness and you're not sleeping and you have insomnia, for example, it must be a terrible ride.
Yeah, sleep hygiene is massive for me, and that's sometimes with my meds, I have sleeping pills, and sometimes I do have to take them. I'm not a huge fan of sleeping pills, but sometimes I do have to take them
Right.
to
Cope.
help myself proper sleep hygiene. Yeah.
Do you think now that you've told this story about survival and how open you are, Danny, and that there is always hope and light at the end of the tunnel, do you ever feel that you would go out there and deal with young people that are in your situation? You were just a teenager when this arrived in your life.
Yeah.
Do you think you could give forums? Are you too shy, or would you be socially anxious to get up in front of a crowd and say, listen, kids, don't let this happen because there's chemo, there are therapists, there are such and such of helpful methods. Do you think you're ready to make that step?
I'm still a little anxious in terms of actual crowds. I blog. I'm very active on Twitter.
Right.
Twitter has a great mental health community.
Great.
But in terms of like actually in front of people, I'm still a little socially anxious for that.
Like even talking one-on-one, do you find it hard talking to me one-on-one, face-to-face?
Yes.
Why is that?
I don't know.
Why is that? I know people find that's embarrassing to look somebody else in the eye,
Yeah.
but it comes with confidence too.
Yeah.
And do you feel because of all this that you've been carrying around, this baggage and all that you've dealt with, that you are a little bit shy?
It's still being so open. In person is still very
Yes.
new. Like my blog and Twitter and everything's very open, but
Right.
it's almost like an introvert's way of getting it out online, and this is just very much
Face-to-face, open and on television. But
Yeah.
does it feel good though to release all your inner thoughts and to say that, you went through all this, but that you're stronger today and healthier today?
It will around 2:30, yeah.
Around 2:30. What else? Anything else you want to talk about as far as your experience goes? Anything that was an incredible moment or an exceptional moment of defeat for you? Anything at all?
Just about like the reason why maybe we don't really reach out. I think to me it comes down to stigma,
Of course.
and we can help just the general public. We can help defeat stigma by just saying certain things are not okay, like media portrayals. Like for instance, there was a movie recently called Split
Yes.
with a dissociative identity disorder, which formerly was called multiple personality disorder.
Exactly.
And it just portrayed a person with that disorder as just this murderous,
Oh, yeah.
you know.
Out of control person.
Yeah, and so people I've met on the ward have had that, and why would they possibly come out and say I have this disorder when hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue and the box office has come in that has portrayed this disorder as being just nothing but murderous.
Exactly. That's not good. That is not good.
So there's some stigma that, like why would we out ourselves when this is the public portrayal? Yeah. And a lot of little things, like sometimes if you go to the mall or you go shopping, you see like the t-shirts, cute but psycho.
Oh, I know. That's offensive.
I put the hot in psychotic.
I find that so offensive.
We're still socially acceptable to be the
Yeah.
laughing stock.
Yeah, or
I just imagine, if you worked really hard to lose weight or whatever, if you wore a t-shirt that said thin but chemo.
no,
And I'm
I
like,
know.
well,
I get you.
Nobody would accept that, but the cute but psycho t-shirts, everyone's like,
And it's really personally offensive to you because it's personally offensive to me. And I don't know people that have. I had one girl in university that had psychotic experience when I was in university, and it was really disturbing for me because I wasn't aware that she had that. So she had her moment, and they came and took her and put her in lockup and everything, and I was traumatized by that. Because one day she's this normal girl helping me with my math, and the next day she's just like being taken away and she's out of control, and it was scary for me.
Yeah.
So have you been in situations where you're afraid to be around other people that are going through such a moment? Like when you were in the ward, were there people that were terrifying for you?
There was some, I was in the ward in Fredericton when I was living there, so it's a little, I can't say different, I haven't been here.
No.
But I can tell you in Fredericton they have this thing called, they have the ward, which is a lockdown unit, mag locks, you can't come or go.
Okay.
But then inside the ward they have this special little thing called INC, intensive nursing care.
Yes.
And it's, if somebody is violent, it's in behind the nurse's station as this special little
Unit?
And so people that are extra, I guess, violent, they go in there
violence
for a
is
few
what I'm
days.
saying. That would be very scary for you.
It was, yeah.
So what was the longest time you said you were in there? 3 months?
Just under 3 months was my last stay.
So Danny, when you stepped out of that place
Yeah.
and you knew that you're on your own and you braced yourself for today's a new day, what kind of a feeling was that? Were you still terrified to be on your own, or did you feel really like in control?
I felt terrified, in control. I was also like as soon as I was discharged, I was moving here to be with family.
Yeah.
So it was a new town. So it was a lot of mixed feelings, but ultimately it was really good.
So tell me, what are some of the things that you should not do around people that are suffering, whether it's schizophrenia episode, mania, very, very depressed people? What are some things that you have found that you do not want people to do when you're experiencing that?
For me personally, is just not to be judgmental, is not to try to fix the situation,
No.
because you're not a doctor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or smile,
Just-
you'll be okay.
Go for a walk.
Yeah, go for a walk.
French Fort Co. Go for a nice walk in the sun. Everything will be better.
Read
It's
a
like,
nice book. Go to a happy movie.
I wish that would work.
I know, but we're talking about a chemistry here that
Yeah.
cannot be altered by us saying you
Exactly,
should
yeah.
do something that's going to be all
Yeah.
okay for me. Go to the beach, have a nice swim.
Yeah. With that being said, I understand that most people, it comes from a good place. I know
Yes.
they don't mean it
Yes.
in a bad, but yeah, maybe don't say that.
It comes from love and concern,
Yeah.
but that you have to respect the person's right to remain silent until they want to come forward and talk about it.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite therapist? Do you have someone that you go to that you trust ultimately?
Yeah.
And how
There's a
often would
couple.
that person be there? How often do you have to contact someone to make sure everything's good with you?
I go once a month, and I can do emails.
Emails,
Yeah.
check in on email.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're working at the time.
Yeah.
So things are, how would you say now? 50%, 60%, 80%? What's your world looking like now as far as mental health wellness?
I'm me.
You're me. And so
Whatever.
on those rough days, the phone calls are there, your siblings are there,
Yep.
and that you just said there are things that you do to cope that you can turn to.
Yeah.
You're ready for it, like you're prepared. When you start feeling something coming on, how is that? When you want to go out and shop too much, or how does that build up? Explain that to me, the mania part.
It's just a slow build up. There's really it's just slow.
Okay, so one
Yeah.
day you get up and you're feeling kind of excited.
Yeah.
And you want to go do something, but then you do it 10 times more than you should.
Yeah, and you take on extra tasks at work, like, hey boss, I can do this, I can do that. You take on extra tasks at work, and you can do
Multitasking.
that, and then it just spirals.
Okay. And then your mind gets just overworked.
Yeah.
Right?
And so many people see that, and they think, oh, it's good, you're being
I
productive
know,
and this and that.
happy and
Yeah,
happy-go-lucky.
it looks like things are good, but it's like, no, things are spiraling. This needs to stop.
How long does that usually last, that episode? That manic episode?
For me, 3 to 4 weeks.
3 to 4 weeks? Is it physically draining
Yeah.
and mentally draining?
Yeah, because you can go 2-3 hours worth of sleep, and you're just like, okay, I'm good to go. You wake up.
Ooh,
and you're just
adrenaline's
like,
keeping you
go.
going.
Yeah.
Then the crash comes after about 4 weeks.
Then you go in a depressive cycle.
And you just stay in bed? You just stay home?
Yeah, I can tell you, during my third attempt, before my attempt, I was in a depressive cycle for about 3 months.
Oh.
I didn't leave my apartment for 3 months. I literally, the only person I met was the Domino's guy.
Oh.
I threw $40 at him once a week, and that was my food for the 3-4 weeks.
Pizza. Lived on pizza
Yeah.
and donaires.
Yeah, and sleep hygiene. That's one thing if people are listening,
Oh.
and if you want to know if someone is suffering,
Mm-hmm.
look for hygiene.
Yes.
Hygiene, like stop shaving,
Yeah.
stop showering,
Not
stop
brush your
brushing their teeth.
Deodorant? No.
That's usually the first to go. Everyone's different, but for me, I can tell you that hygiene is the first to go when I'm starting to go in a depressive
You
cycle.
just do not care.
Yep.
If you want to stay in your pajama pants or go shirtless or whatever, don't brush your hair. You have beautiful curls. And that must look pretty wild after you've been in your apartment for quite a long time.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Yes, but so hygiene is a
A warning sign,
Factor.
a red flag.
A red
maybe
flag's
if
the
people
word.
are listening and they want to, yeah, it could be.
But the good news is that you're on the upswing now.
Yeah, for me, it's been a combination of medications, talk therapy, and peer support.
Peer support.
There's no magic bullet. Again, like I said, don't judge someone else's treatment plan. Don't
No,
med shame
no.
someone.
No.
If it's working for them, great.
Exactly, and like you said, those T-shirts, to me, get rid of them. I don't know why people think that's charming or funny. I'm repulsed by a lot of it. They don't realize it's affecting people that are walking right past that shirt, and it's them they're talking about.
It's the separation that still exists between mental health and health. You know, like I said, you know, cute but psycho, wear the T-shirt that says thin like chemo. You'd get your butt kicked, you know, but cute but psycho is still, ha ha ha, it's funny,
I know.
cute. You know, it's still acceptable.
While we were talking, I'm thinking how much you could benefit somebody that is going through some form of mental illness, because we just said 7 of them that are very common in the everyday life. Did you ever think about sitting or furthering education? I know we're going to wrap up, but giving help besides on Twitter and blogging, did you ever think about when you're more open and relaxed to do this one-on-one with kids that are, or adults?
It's something I would like to do eventually, yes, once.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you got to be ready.
Yes.
I've been so proud to have you on the show.
Well,
you look great. Your hygiene's good. You smell good. You're smiling. And it's been a pleasure, Danny. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you.
We're back. I'm Judy Loche with Have a Chat. We are live at Rogers Studio in Miramichi, New Brunswick on this beautiful sunny day. And I just had Dannie Godin on, who just was so open about his story with mental illness, and he's there to reach out to. He's doing very, very well and brought light to the whole topic this afternoon, so I'm very grateful that he was our guest. And now we have 2 wonderful guests joining us for the last segment of our show. We have beside me Tara Audibert and Phyllis Grant. So for those who don't know you, I know they've met you once before on another topic that you were here about, but you're back.
Yes.
So tell the viewers about yourself again, Tara.
Yes. Yeah, I was on here before for Improv for Anxiety.
Yes.
So we have an improv group here in Miramichi. But I'm the owner and creator of Moxie Fox Studio.
Moxie Fox.
And both Phyllis and I, along with our third partner, Kirsten Tomlinson, are the co-creators of the Nitap Collective, which is a female-led Aboriginal collective here in Miramichi, and we create games and animations.
Very, very interesting. So again, tell us a little bit more about your personal life. Where did you come from before Miramichi?
I was an animator working in Halifax, and I moved to Miramichi to teach animation at the community college.
Oh, at MBCC
At
Miramichi?
MBCC, yeah.
Okay.
And so I taught there for a little over 8 years, and then I got some funding to create my own film,
Yes.
The Importance of Dreaming. So I left to create this film and start my own company, which was Moxie Fox Studio. So
Would you be an indie film director then?
Yes.
That's pretty
for
cool.
sure. Yeah. And Phyllis is as well.
And Phyllis too. Tell us,
For the
Phyllis,
NFB,
now.
yes.
You're not from Miramichi.
No, I'm from Pabineau First Nation, which is near Bathurst, New Brunswick, and I'm an artist. I have all types of ways of expressing, and it's film, animation, writing, painting, illustration.
Creative.
But I worked with the NFB, the National Film Board of Canada, for 6 years, and I did 2 films with them, so that was in my history. I don't know how we missed each other, Tara,
No,
because I went to
that's
NBCC as well.
You did.
Yeah.
I actually
And
taught
for
at
years-
MBCC years
Oh,
ago,
did you?
but I taught
Okay.
corrections. I taught criminal justice at the college.
This
so.
was in 2002, between
yes.
2002 and 2004. And
I think I graduated just prior to you being there, I think in
okay.
99.
So
it was
you
just
went on
like-
your own, and then
Yeah.
So we both had separate paths.
Right. But you have
But-
Moxie Fox Studio, and this is part of your creation.
No, actually, so Moxie Fox is just my own
Okay,
studio,
okay.
and then we
And
actually
I
got
have my own as
together.
well, like
Oh,
Phyllis
right.
Grant Studio and Gallery. So, but we teamed up with Kirsten Tomlinson, and she was a Wolastoqiyik animator, and I'm a Mi'kmaq animator, and they had connected at first, and then invited me to be a part of this collective.
I see.
And I thought it was the coolest idea I've ever heard
Yes,
of. Like,
it is.
to have like 3 women leading. So we call it female-driven, indigenous-led.
I love it.
So yeah, so we've been having a blast for the last 2 years, just being creative and figuring out what we want to do and how. Like, we're pretty young for a,
Oh,
for a
I would say
nonprofit.
so. I
Really,
mean, more
yeah.
than young. You're younger than me.
So, no, I mean the nonprofit is like super. Like it's it's a
We
young
actually just
organization.
had our second year anniversary, our birthday, or whatever.
Yeah,
second
our
birthday for the
birthday.
Newegg Collective.
Just-
Yeah.
So yeah, so we
What
do
I
a lot
have,
of things.
Okay, so what I have is that you both are from the Nitap Collective, and it's an indigenous, as you said, female-led artist group and creators of the storytelling app, Nitap, Legends of the First Nations. So tell us a bit about the collection.
About the collective?
Collective.
Oh, okay, yes. Well, we had to create an artists collective to access money from Canada Council for what was called the New Chapter Fund, which for Canada 150, they were putting more money into Canada Council so that Indigenous people could create, like move further and see in terms of innovation and technology and art and see what was out there, what we could do. So we put in a proposal to create a game, and in the game, people would be able to have access. It would be an app, and people would be able to access Mi'kmaq and Wolastoqiyik legends. So it was really interesting because really it was app as an art piece, and so we really enjoyed doing that.
When we started it, we had the idea that we're going to start it here in New Brunswick. So the app is available on iTunes and Google Play right now.
See, I wouldn't have known any of this. I'm so glad you're on to share all this information.
Go
now
on
people
and check
will
it out.
be on it. They
we
definitely
would love
will.
that. What we're here to talk about today is the fact that we got another grant through Heritage Canada,
Wonderful.
through the Aboriginal Language Initiative. So we originally had 4 stories based in New Brunswick. We want our app to start in New Brunswick because we're in New Brunswick, and we wanted to build it out from there to collect stories from kind of all of Canada.
Wonderful.
But the app right now, it starts in New Brunswick. It'll always start in New Brunswick because it's us that it's creating it, and it's created here. So that's an important part that we wanted to have to that, because a lot of times I think people, I guess maybe Toronto or BC is where the major gaming and animation is coming out of Canada, especially for First Nations. But to have something here is very
unique
and
exciting.
Very unique.
Yeah.
So we've got further funding. We got 4 new stories that we created this year.
I saw one online, I did
Oh,
look
that's
it
awesome.
up. I thought, wow, this is going to reach a lot, and it's for all ages to appreciate, right?
Yes.
You have children's
Yeah.
stories right up to adults and
Yeah,
older
well,
people.
it's for everybody.
Yeah.
These are legends that both Phyllis and I have heard growing up for all our lives, and they're stories that we feel like they've been passed down, but we've been told time and time again. These are one version of the story because the story always changes, especially with First Nations telling of it, because it depends who's telling it, it depends where you're telling it, who your audience is, and how much little details you're going to add in.
Constantly changing.
So we've collected 4 new stories. We're having a launch June 28th.
Ooh.
Friday, June 28th. It's going to be at the Vogue Theatre because basically we just want to celebrate this with everybody in the community
So
here.
you should.
Share it.
And share it, and that's our main goal. So it's
So
not
the
for
launch,
profit.
again, is June 28th at the Vogue Theatre, which is in Chatham. Everybody knows where that is, just off of Wellington Street on Kennard. And so what time is it at?
It's from 6 till 8:30.
6 till 8:30, you said.
We're going to have music, drumming. We're going to have smudging, some food.
Yeah, and it's
cake.
interesting because we each bring different elements of the culture from each culture to it. So in my family, I have the people who do, like, my sister is going to do, Connie is going to do a smudging ceremony, and my father is going to drum. And my son, Wolf Castle, is going to perform, and he is also one of the music creators for the game. And for her part, we have another performer, Wangle Teb, who is an electronic music artist who did music, who's Wolastoqiyik as well, who is doing the music for the game. So, and then she has her family members, and they're both performing. So you're going to get electronic and rap.
It's going to be quite an event. What does the admission cost?
It is free.
Totally free.
Totally free. So it's
Totally
just
free
for us to
and
be able to share
interesting,
these
fun.
stories. And that's the goal of our not-for-profit organization. So the Nigwek Collective, our goal is to create these stories, to gather them together, and then to be able to share them with basically as many people as we can. So through the app is our main goal. So that's international, right across the world, that we can share it. But for us, we want to have this celebration with
a big
our
launch and
family,
exposure of it all.
everybody that's around here.
Yes. So tell us about your family. Do you have a child?
No, I'm just me. I have a dog.
devote a lot of time to this. You can devote a lot of time to your work. And Phyllis, do you have
I have 3 children, but they're all grown up, so I'm able to devote a lot of time to it too. Although I have a lot of projects, like Tara has a lot of projects too that we work on in the arts.
Did you say you have a son named Wolf Castle?
That's his stage name,
Okay,
Wolf
I was
Castle.
thinking,
Yeah,
wow.
Tristan Grant. Yeah,
Tristan Grant goes
he's
by
an-
Wolf Castle.
Yeah, he's an ECMA nominated hip hop artist.
Oh my goodness.
And yeah, he's graduating this week today, like tomorrow. He's valedictorian of the.
That's
he went to the
amazing,
Music
yeah.
Business College there at NSCC. So I'm on my way there after this.
You're very busy
So,
lady,
yeah.
so.
So I'm really proud of him. But yeah.
And Tara, what
So-
else now? You have some stories about your mom or your aunt?
Yeah, so my mom, for my part of the 2 stories that I directed, was my great aunt for these ones. My mother did the first 2 stories that I directed, and which was amazing to be able to work with my mom and have her tell these stories that
Yes.
I've heard all my life, and have her, just to be able to share them, I guess. But also to be able to work with her was very fun.
Very much.
And
so.
then for the second 2, I got to work with my great aunt. So the ones that are coming out now, we get to tell them in the languages. So they're in Wolastoqey and in Mi'kmaq by Phyllis's dad. So that was also amazing. For Wolastoqey language, there's only 70 fluent speakers left. So it's an endangered, or it may
Yes.
be, I think it's on it's an endangered
Yeah,
language
yeah.
because of
Don't
that.
want to lose that.
So when I heard that, I was like, 70 people, that's just basically my family,
No, I
basically,
know.
So, and I was like, oh my gosh. And one of them I know for sure, well, my mom is, and but my great aunt, she also teaches language as well. So I was like,
Beautiful.
oh, she would be a great person to be able to record these stories.
What a creative bunch of people
Yeah.
you have in your lives.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
surrounded
It was
by them.
amazing. And I think that was like the best part for maybe, I don't know, for me to be able to work with my mom and my great aunt to have these stories that someday they're just not going to, they won't be telling the stories.
That's right. You've got
so-
them all captured
yeah.
now. And what about you in relation to your father's stories?
Oh my
Phyllis?
father will be 80 in November, and he's a fluent speaker of Mi'kmaq, and the stories do change. Like even as I was recording, they seems like
Yeah.
they changed.
Okay.
Every time I went to record, but I gather as much as I could, and just being able to work with them and even learn the language myself.
Of course, it's a big thing. It would take me a long time to
Yeah.
do that. I know
Yeah.
it would. I'm not great at grasping new languages.
But the thing about learning is like, instead of learning like a whole bunch of words, I kind of learned like one word at a time
Yes.
and what that meant and what that meant to me. Like while I'm working with my father, I'm able to do that. So that's really important to me. I'd rather know one word and know what it meant,
That's right.
what it means and what it meant, like to the older Mi'kmaq people,
Mm-hmm.
than a whole bunch of words that I don't really know that feeling.
Yeah.
So
I think it's
yeah,
incredible.
so it's
What,
really cool.
what else can you tell us about this now? You did
Wow.
this up yourselves. Did you
Yeah.
come up with this lovely little poster?
Yes, yeah, and I think
Okay.
we have a poster that they can put up for
Oh,
so
there
you
we
can check
go.
it out with all the
All right.
information on it.
And then we
Maybe
can-
one of the things we could talk about, since we're talking about language, is just the word Nitap itself.
Nitap,
So
yep.
we called our game Nitap, so it says Nitap, so it sounds like it should be Nitap.
Uh-huh.
But in both of the languages, the T is pronounced as a D with a D sound, or the D phonetic, and the P is pronounced with a B phonetic.
Right,
So you're
Nitap.
going to say Nitap.
Nitap.
So when you come to the event, you can say, hey, a Nitap means friend.
No.
So you're going to say,
okay.
hey,
and we
Nitap.
Oh, no, that
You're
word.
speaking
you know,
right away.
hey,
You're
Nitap.
speaking Wolastoqey and Mi'kmaq at the same
Very
But we
So-
didn't know that the word was the same, but in Wolastoqey and
languages,
in both
yeah.
languages.
But I'm excited for this
That
Legends
was
of the
really-
First Nations. I mean, you're taking this on, and people are going to be so proud to be part of this, their heritage, and that you're capturing these stories to the longevity is there now.
I hope so, and we hope too to bring together the First Nations community. So there's 6 different communities around
Yes,
Miramichi.
there are.
We're in a very unique place, I think, and that is
we are.
like kind of cool for us to be able to have that surrounding here. And I think we'd like to also bring together these communities with the Miramichi community, and I think that's what we're hoping
Yeah,
as
draw
part of this
everybody in.
launch, that everybody will come and find out a little bit about.
Celebrate and share.
I don't know how else can we get people there, because it's just sounding so exciting. No, really though.
Well, if you have
Are you
something
gonna
that you want to do with kids, and that's
Yeah.
our main thing, is to get the kids there, because with these
Okay.
stories, it's great for adults, but for me, anyway, with my work, I find that it's kids are the ones that are going to make changes as we go, and they're the ones that need to know about these
And
you know,
kids, that
different stories.
they absorb so much, right? Like
Oh,
they get intrigued by new words and new, like just all these facts that you were telling me about, like Nidab. They would not know what that
Yeah,
meant until you talked about it. And what else does it say? That you're going to have animation screening, and you're going to actually be there yourself. Is the other lady going to join you? That's part of your
Yes, yeah,
so
we're
enterprise.
excited.
And so will the
I miss
elders
you,
will be there
Kirsten.
too. So you can, yeah. So the elders will be there as well too. So
Yeah.
my mom, her dad, and my great aunt will be there. So you can We're also going to have like a little kind of meet and greet, so we can have some, eat some food and talk
It
to the
says
creators.
that right
and
here, some
stuff.
food and cake.
Yeah.
And some takelet. It's fry, it's bread.
Yeah, so one of the stories is about a crow and friend, and it has to do with legaled. So legaled is fry bread in Wollastockie, and we're actually going to have some fry bread there that everybody can try.
Okay, so it all comes together in reality type thing. It's all on there in animation, but then you're bringing it right to the right
And you can meet the
bowl.
creators and listen to music and just have like a really good time enjoying learning and sharing in the cultures that are here.
Exactly.
Which was really cool.
Embracing
I
them.
think, and to create more dialogue between all of us. And
Definitely
so,
important.
yeah.
There's not enough of it. So you're
no, I
you're
don't think
really-
so. I think we need more of that. I think we need to talk more, communicate more, and share in stories. There's
And
nothing more.
celebrate the First
There's
Nations
nothing
communities.
more joyful than sharing stories.
That's what I say too.
Yeah.
How often do you two get together physically to work on things?
This is kind of very rare.
Yeah, because
it's virtual. Our collective is virtual, I guess, if we can say that. So we don't actually have to be in the same place to be able to work together, which is amazing. So
Modern
she can
technology,
work from
Tara.
her
It's pretty
studio,
incredible.
and that's great. We communicate through Skype on a weekly basis, though, so it's that's important that we do have communication, and we. But
it's been working really
yeah,
well. Like
we're
for
very.
I love it.
Because
Have you
we're all
had
very
kids
busy.
come? Have you had some feedback on any of this stuff as far as your
Yeah.
stories go, and people saying we want more, we love it, or can you maybe do this? Any suggestions from people?
Yeah, well, for sure, we had our first launch last year, so we had the same sort of thing where we invited everybody to the Vogue, and everybody loved them. You know that it's a good story when it's quiet,
Right.
and that the kids are quiet.
kids are quiet.
And they're absorbing it all.
Yeah, and I think that's a very
Yeah.
a very high honor when the kids are quiet and they're watching.
And I think the music lends
And
so
my-
much to it, don't you?
And my nieces and nephews in Toronto were watching some of the films, and they were watching them over and over again. And I was telling my sister that is a really good sign if they're watching them over and over, because they're
is.
listening to the language, they're watching the visuals. I'm sure they're learning about the language.
They
So,
are.
Yeah.
And passing it on, like you said, that keeps it going.
Yeah.
It won't end that way. We don't want it to. We want it to keep thriving. So I really do encourage people to come out on June 28th, which is the day after my birthday, on the 25th again.
Yeah, you can come join us, and maybe
I think I'm going to be away for my
cake.
birthday. I think I might get away. But I'll certainly spread the word. And for the viewers, please do come out and support this launch of celebration of Nitap, my friend it means. And of course, you invite to be a guest at the Vogue on June 28th. That's 6 until 8:30 p.m. free admission, and all kinds of stories being told by the Wolfstag. What is it? The elders.
Wollastockie and Mi'kmaq elders.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So I can get my mouth around that.
Yeah.
So anything you want to wrap up with today, ladies, about anything or anything that you
I'd
want
like to talk about Nigweg, what that
Okay.
means too.
Nigweg.
If people come, you can be a part of the growth, because Nigweg means growth in Mi'kmaq. And it would be nice to have like a lot of people there to enjoy this growth and to grow with us, because our mandate is to share and to be very open. And there's a lot of talk about indigenization in Canada right now.
Very much so.
So I think this is a very holistic way of doing it, and a fun way of
Perfect.
doing that feels good for everyone.
Yeah.
So
Any last words, Tara, before we
Yeah.
end?
Well, I think especially with the launch, we're looking for people to work with us too.
Okay.
So come on down
If you're
and see what we're
listening,
about.
You want to
and-
contact
yeah,
them?
for
You
sure.
go on Facebook?
For sure, yeah, we're on Facebook as well. And we have an event.
And
on there.
nigweg.com, you can, that's the basis,
Perfect.
nigweg.com. You can reach everything from that main
And then,
point.
so it's a wrap. Thank you,
Yeah.
ladies, so much
Thank
for
you
being
for
here.
having
Have
us
a
on.
wonderful,
Thank you.
successful launch.
Oh, thank you.
everybody.